Welcome back to Chaos Corner. It's your old buddy, the Guardian of Chaos, Big Daddy, and I tell it like it is. I'll say that to say this. Live to tape, same day coverage, 20 feet below the surface of the earth, down here in the bunker for show number 40. That's right, fans. Show number 40 of Chaos Corner. Now, the internet service and the Wi Fi is right on point. The solar's all charged up. We're going to talk about a lot of different things here on show number 40. We have put aside for the moments, what we've been covering over the last several shows here, and that's a complete idiot's guide to the world of pro wrestling, a match made in heaven by Captain Lou Albano and Burt Randolph Sugar. We are putting that aside for show number 40. Sit back and relax. We have a lot of breaking and trending news. I know that the IWC, if you will, has been on top of it. Fans, follow me on all social media platforms, and that's Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Gab, Parler, Rumble, and DLive. If you hit my Twitter profile right now, and that's at Big Daddy GOC, and the GOC stands for the Guardian of Chaos, that will bounce you over to where you are now on YouTube. Now, I'm very active on Instagram. I'm very active on Gab, as you well know, on Twitter, and of course, for here on Chaos Corner on YouTube. Fans, what we're going to talk about here today are a lot of news and notes that are coming out of the world of professional wrestling. Everything from Ric Flair's birthday today, woo, to what's going on with AEW and the Big Show showing up. What's coming up for Revelation? What's happening this weekend at Paradise Alley Pro Wrestling? We have all kinds of things happening. And of course, we have a rest in peace for someone who just passed away out of the world of pro wrestling. So fans, follow my boys over at the show, and that's at Mario_Chaos. They're there to put you over. Don't you dare miss it. Stay tuned right here. All right, fans. Welcome back to Chaos Corner. You can see we're pouring a little sugar all over the place, but the studio is empty today. So let me lower the music. You know I get a little carried away when I don't have the hecklers, when I don't have the crowd. Let me lower this a little bit. Great song though, huh? 70s, 80s, they didn't make music like that anymore. They don't make it like that anymore with the longevity. Fans, what we're going to cover here today, again, a break from a complete idiot's guide, although I know a lot of idiots out there, including the number one idiot, yours truly, wanted to complete that, but we have a long way to go. I'm just happy to be here for show number 40. It's me, it's the GOC. Fans, we're going to start off with news and notes, and as I said in the opening monologue, we're going to cover this weekend's event down at the Paradise Alley Pro Wrestling Training Facility, the Performance Center, if you will. We will run down the lineup and the news and notes that we have from there. We're coming off of AEW Dynamite last night and NXT and MLW Fusion. I will briefly touch on the news and notes that I have there. And of course, the night before with AEW Dark and Impact on Access. And there's a lot of things going on, fans. What I would like to do here first is I'm going to take a quick break. I'm going to give a shout out to my boy, Mr. Hempel-Stilskin over at SweetHeal.com. Now, fans, if you're not going for all your CBD needs to SweetHeal.com, new brand, new website with the same great formula, I don't know what you're doing. They have everything from balms to tinctures to lotions to oils to edibles to everything that you would want for anxiety, inflammation, insomnia. Hook up with Mr. Hempel-Stilskin. Go over to Sweet Heal CBD, sweetheal.com. It's locally owned, locally grown, and it's legally licensed. And if it didn't work, I wouldn't put my name to it here at Chaos Corner. So now that we have that out of the way, I'm going to give a little, since we bounced right onto it, we're still talking to them. We're still in negotiations. Although they haven't returned my letters, I'm still going to support because they support the United States of America. And basically, that's what I am. I was born and bred here in the United States of America. So I consider myself American. Yeah, you can talk about ancestry, descendants, history. Whatever. Okay, I've said it before. I got to jerk off the dog to feed the cat. I'm American. But let's get on to the news and notes. Cheers to everyone out there. No dead air. I'm learning, right? Episode 40, live to tape. Bing, bing, bing. What a beautiful day out here in the northeast tri-state area, the New England area, up and down the corridor. It's bright and sunny. It's almost 50 degrees. It'll be that way for the next couple of days. So let's get all the snow out of here. Spring training has started. They're rolling out the vaccine, good, bad, right, otherwise, however you want to do it. It's going to open up the country. Then we're all for it here at Chaos Corner. What I would like to do first, I'd like to give a rest in peace, and this just came across my timeline, to Joseph Hudson. And fans, you know who Joseph Hudson is. That's the former Josephus, aka the question mark. And in honor of him, the Mongrovian Karate passed away suddenly, recently, out of nowhere. I believe it was late last night, early this morning. It's breaking news. Rumors are having it, and I'm just throwing it out there. It's for public consumption. It's for information. This is nothing that you couldn't find out there by yourself if you did your research like we do here on Chaos Corner. I'm hearing maybe a stroke, maybe an aneurysm. I don't want to speak out of place here. He didn't have any health concerns going on. His last match, I believe, for the NWA and the Corgans and the NWA Power was in January of 2020. He did not wrestle throughout this pandemic and the COVID. That I do know. But not only was he the Mongrovian Karate, I really loved that gimmick. And not only was he Josephus and the question mark, he also portrayed Bruiser Brody in the Dark Side of the series, Dark Side of the Ring series. He hadn't been around that long, although he was a veteran, a well-liked guy. I know he had a young son, Joseph. So I just want to give from the bottom of my heart my thoughts and prayers out to Joseph Hudson, Joe Hudson's family, a.k.a. Josephus, the question mark, the Mongrovian question mark, Karate. So rest in peace. There's just been a lot of things going on out there in the media, and also we're hoping for a quick recovery of another news line and a flash that came across the whole world with the near fatal results of the auto accident out in California by one Tiger Woods, perhaps the best golfer in the history of golfing. And what he did for that community in the golf world is really unbelievable. This is not the first time that Tiger has had his issues. I'm not here to talk about that. A lot of people brought that up for some reason. I'm not quite sure why. It is what it is. Tiger Woods did what he did. Let's talk about him as the sports person and the athlete, and what he's done for this country and for the young generation moving forward. And let's hope that he's okay. And our prayers and thoughts are, listen, as a man, maybe I didn't respect some of the things that he stood for or what he did. But who am I to judge anyone? I'm nobody. I'd have to look in the mirror. But there's no denying what he did as an athlete and what he did as a person. So thoughts and prayers out to Tiger Woods. What I also want to talk about here is the biggest news that's also coming out of the IWC, if you will, and AEW. Paul Wright, a.k.a. The Big Show, has gone all elite. That's right. It's been worked on for a little while. I guess back to the bullying episode of Randy Orton during the whole bullying promo vignettes of the Legends Raw Monday night edition they had weeks back. I guess that's when Big Show, a.k.a. Paul Wright, made his feelings known that, it was about finances. He wanted a better contract. He wanted to extend his career. He didn't want to go out that way. And Tony Khan came along, and, you want to go out on your own terms a lot of times, although it doesn't always happen that way. So kudos to the Big Show. I enjoyed his TV show. A lot of people say he's past his prime. Hey, listen, look at what Sting's doing, and we're going to get onto that in the rumors, news, and notes here on Chaos Corner. Show number 40. So I'm happy for him. And how he's going over to AEW, now this pushes back him ever getting into the WWE Hall of Fame. I mean, as it's done for Jericho too, it'll be years before they ever get into the WWE Hall of Fame. But hey, it's about now, it's about today, it's about living in the moment. That's what it's about. I applaud the Big Show. Now he's going to host a new YouTube show with Shivani called Dark Elevation, and this is where Tony Khan and AEW and TNT and everything else, they're using the platforms, as I always tell you to use the show, my sister network. Now they're going to go on, and they're even having a third show that's lined up for TNT, which we're not sure about yet. But the Big Show is the hottest, newest free agent. I don't think he's going to get in the ring anytime soon. Now, you know that the whole Shaquille O'Neal thing going on in AEW, who knows? I mean, maybe he'll have one more left in him, but I applaud the Big Show. I have to tell you, when it comes to finances, you got to take care of your family. Briefly, Big Show debuted, I believe, in WCW in '95. I guess he ran into Hogan, and Hogan saw his size and was a great guy and said, come on. Now, Big Show attributes his training a lot to the WCW power plant, but it's well known that the Big Show started his training at the legendary Larry Sharp's Monster Factory down in New Jersey, where Bam Bam Bigelow was, and so on and so forth, and still continues to this day with the great trainers down there at the Monster Factory. So that's originally where the Big Show started. So listen, this is great for him. The new show is going to be on YouTube March 15 with Shivani. Let's see how Big Show transitions into it. But the bottom line is, it's another coup for Tony Khan, Omega, Cody Rhodes, the Young Bucks, to bring over another talent, another legend from the WWE. The war is on. We're going back to the middle and late 90s for the Monday Night Wars. I mean, you fans want to say no, you don't want to call it a war, you don't want to use that terminology. Okay, I get it. I'm telling you where I'm coming from. And I really think about this with the Big Show too. Not only 95 to 99 in WCW, but he spent 99 all the way to 2021, okay, in the WWE. And now to go to AEW, give him credit. Look, gotta love the atmosphere. I can control whatever I want down here. Unedited, unscripted, no button. I haven't transitioned over to the great new laptop and the microphones. I will soon. We don't know if we're going to continue from actually down in the bunker or if we're going to move up to Chaos headquarters. Either way, stay tuned. There's a lot of things happening. Which leads us into, obviously, we know that coming up March 7th is the big Revolution pay-per-view card. We're going to talk about that. I'm not sure if we'll cover it here. I'd like to go through the news and notes, different things that I want to cover, make this a little out-of-the-box show before we get back onto an idiot's guide, which I'm really having a good time, and I hope you're enjoying it. And the comments and the reviews and the subscriptions and hitting the bell and the like buttons and all that has really worked. So I greatly appreciate you guys down here from the bunker here at Chaos Corner. We'll cover Revolution, but AEW Dynamite, if you watched, I want to briefly touch on that from last night. First off, the Archer versus Phoenix match last night was high risk and unbelievable to see such a huge man in the Murder Hawk monster with Jake the Snake ringside, and then to see Phoenix and how he flies all over the area. Perhaps the fastest rising grappler in today, and especially in AEW, and to pull off a match, he's the new giant killer, if you ask me, Ray Phoenix. So I took that last night as something that really stuck out to me. And then, of course, with Sting coming out, and then Tony Khan, give him credit, and Cody Rhodes, Sting comes out to confront Team Taz, and who comes out of nowhere? Out of the zip line from up in the stands, it's Darby Allin. Darby Allin. You know I have to do that on every show. 14 and a half minutes here. Darby Allin, really? Darby Allin comes down on a zip line. You know what Bully Ray said to me at least a couple of times. 20 years ago, the Hall of Famer from Busted Open Radio, he said, give the Guardian of Chaos 7 spots. He'll fuck up 6 of them. I want to get that out of the way that fast. And that's not because of the Red Bull. That's because I did the Evelyn Wood speed reading course back in the, I don't know, late 80s, early 90s. You get what I'm saying. But how smart is that? Now, Shawn Michaels used that same entrance against Bret Hart at WrestleMania. Now, If anyone's out there with the trivia questions, I keep throwing them out there, offering the 8x10s, the glossies, the Hall of Famers, the regular ones, whatever memorabilia you want to get these trivia questions back to me. You know how to get in touch with me. Inbox me on any one of my social media platforms, or of course, email me chaos big daddy the number 2 at yahoo.com. That's right, chaos big daddy the number 2 at yahoo.com, or chaos big daddy the number 2 at gmail.com. So either one of those, get back to me. We'll talk about what you want live on the air. We'll read your question, and if you get it right, we'll get some memorabilia and some prizes out to you, just because that's what we like to do here. We got to give back somehow, some way, just because you're coming here to watch the content. So I was impressed with that. Those are the things that really stuck out to me last night, leading into Revolution. Unbelievable. I didn't really want to break it down. I want to break down the news and notes here and the different things that I want to get into, and especially on the 72nd birthday of Ric Flair. We're going to go over some of his memorable matches. I'm going to keep this short. We're definitely not even going to do an hour here. We're going to break it down live to tape, same day coverage, show number 40, and we're going to bounce it up on the channel. Another news and note and tidbit coming out of Chaos Corner, Body Slam, the movie from the 80s. Now, I've talked about it in previous reviews on shows and books here on Chaos Corner. That's with Dirk Benedict, the late, great Roddy Piper, Afa and Sika from the Samoans, the Warlord, the Barbarian, Tijo Khan. Wait, I do not think the Warlord was in there, but all the different grapplers. Of course, the legendary Little Sam, the Tonga Kid, the whole rock and wrestling, Captain Lou Albano. I believe it was Paul Butcher Vachon was also in that movie. It's an incredible classic as far as the world of professional wrestling. It's coming out on new DVD and Blu-ray in early June. So this summer, hopefully the pandemic is under control, and everybody's doing the right thing, and we can get back to full crowds and full arenas and back to normal lives, and let's hope that's coming back. I'm a little skeptical. I don't like what's going on. I don't like what's going on with the new administration, but that's another story for another time, and we try to keep it separate here on Chaos Corner. Go out and check out Body Slam, and it's going to come out on a DVD and Blu-ray, so it'll probably be some great extra scenes in it, and what a great wrestling movie. And we're speaking of wrestling movies, we're going to cover the Young Rock and the dip in the ratings, but still great ratings for the second episode, and I really enjoyed it, so we're going to talk about that. Before we get on to that, I want to bring up WFAN, the legendary The Fan, in New York City, in the biggest market, at one time the biggest sports station in the country, perhaps the world, where the legendary Don Imus was for years, God rest his soul, and of course Mike and the Mad Dog, Eddie Coleman, the list goes on and on, the great Howie Rose, I mean, even John Sterling, Susan Waldman, Steve Summers, I mean, the list of people that have been on there, Joe Beningo, and of course even the recently retired, unbelievable, and I miss him so much, the great Tony Page. There's been a lot of guys on there, including the current stars like Double J Jastrzemski and Evan Roberts, although Roberts has kayfabed me many times. And you get what you deserve, Evan Roberts, although I love you and respect you and you're talented. The job was handed to you. I'm not here to bash. Now you have to put up with Craig Carton. Again, nothing against Craigie. I'm not here to judge him or what he's done or what he did to other people or who he made victims. I guess he paid his repentance, and he'll pay one way or another. He is a talented guy, so I'll say that. But now it's you and him as opposed to you and Joe. So I'm going to let it stay at that because you're all talented guys. I'm not here to bash anybody. No bad karma. But Carton, why I'm bringing this up in WFAN, had the testicular fortitude to basically call out Paul Heyman. And I quote, Carton posted that in the 90s, he was offered by a group in Philadelphia to be an announcer called Joey Styles, the gimmick, the character Joey Styles, but he turned it down. Well, Carton, no disrespect because you are talented and I have no issue with you. I don't even know you personally. I've talked to you on the phone, but I don't know you personally. And you're extremely talented, and it's great to get second chances in life, isn't it? Very nice. And I believe in second chances, so hopefully we all get them someday. And sometimes third chances. But Paul Heyman called BS, called bullshit, called it a lie, and said that number one, there's only one Joey Styles, and he's always been Joey Styles, even back into the early and middle 90s before he was ever even hired by ECW. So there's only one Joey Styles, and we know who that is, and there will always be one Joey Styles. And that was in '94, by the way, Carton, that they needed a substitute announcer, and it certainly wasn't you. So I also call bullshit on it too, because I was around back then too. Paul, Joey Styles is great, but you could have called me. The GOC was available, but I found that to be interesting, that how everybody wants to get in on, mainstream wants to get in on wrestling. They all want to do it. I said it back on the last few shows and episodes, so go back and check it out, fans. We're 20 minutes in. Thanks for being here. Live to tape. We're coming to the end of February already. We're only a couple days away from March. This is a beautiful thing. Lead us into spring, baseball, hopefully the summertime and open stadiums. And yeah, fans, this is what we want. Let's move on to the task at hand here. As I say it all the time, NXT, just a couple of notes and things that I've noticed that came out of there last night and that were coming across people's timelines of folks talking about. How about, and listen, I'm a fan of his. I'm not here to judge him. I think he's doing a good job with it, but you couldn't carry his jockstrap, to be quite honest, and I don't know how it's going to work out. And I'm talking about one Cameron Grimes, who seems to be the flavor of the month. Now, listen, a talented guy, talented in the ring, very charismatic. But what they're doing with Cameron Grimes, and you see how history always repeats itself, and it's lazy creative because you can't come up with your ideas from you did 10, 15, 20, 30 years ago from the golden era. So now they got Grimes doing or trying to do $1 million man gimmick, the bouncing of the basketball, kicking it away, the perfect shots, the whole 9 yards. Listen, it's entertaining. It's 2021. This new demographic from 18 to 34, whatever the demo is that AEW and WWE worry about. And listen, I'm the over 50 demo god. It's well known in the IWC. Okay, and what you get here in the different, unique, unedited, unscripted content like nobody else's business from the bunker. But it's entertaining. I like Grimes, but can we do it on the in-ring performance? NXT's getting in a little bit more into the vignettes, trying to be more entertainment instead of just basic wrestling to compete with AEW. Now, I've said many times, NXT, as far as in-ring product and grappling, perhaps the best in the world, next to New Japan and throwing MLW or Ring of Honor, but you get the gist. But you see what they're trying to do? Entertainment, because it's not just about wrestling. Entertainment sells as well, and it's a big part of the business. Also, another note that came across my timeline. Listen, kudos out to Cameron Grimes. Let's see where it goes. Gargano's the one that's carrying NXT right now anyway. We all well know that. Let's get on to what I heard from Tony Khan and read across his timeline. It was buried deep down. I don't know if anyone saw it. It was Kenny Omega's idea, according to Tony Khan, about a year ago. This is how long they've been planning it, from when they first started a year and a half ago, for the exploding barbed wire death match, the death match, barbed wire exploding match, however you want to break it down and describe it. Khan credits Omega, which makes sense to me. I thought that back anyway, especially when they did the first bout. Omega's been working on this for about a year, so it goes to show you how long it takes and what creative does. And if you're ahead of the game, like WWE, WWF used to do it years ago in the Attitude Era, and even before that, like writing a story, it was done months and months and months and months and perhaps years in advance, and I think they've lost that in the creative. I really do, and I think so in the WWE. Now, I'm not here to bash them because AEW's been sloppy on certain things too, although I've noticed they've tightened up a little bit with the refereeing. I think all the products are fantastic. I'm appreciative to be a fan, an insider, and still be involved in the business, and then to bring you this content as a fan, a mark, a Jay Brony, if you will. You see what I did there, if you're paying attention? Let's go on to some more news. We talked about it earlier. I want to get on to the Young Rock. second episode, it's taking place in the future. Now, we're not going back to the future in this episode like the previous episodes and shows with the Complete Idiot's Guide to Pro Wrestling. Again, an unbelievable book. I get chills thinking about it. I want to grab it right now and start doing it, but I want to make show 40 different and pump out the news that you guys want to know about that's trending all over the internet, exploding over the last 24 to 48 hours. Young Rock on the first episode. This is where Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. It's a sitcom on NBC. Again, it pays homage to the business, and I will say that the portrayals of the Alpha and Sika and the Iron Sheik and the Junkyard Dog and Andre the Giant and the different grapplers. I mean, it's just great. And Rocky Johnson and Atta, you know, Rock's mother is just unbelievable. And even back to the High Chief and Leah Maivia, the Rock's grandmother, who I negotiated with in the middle 90s many times with the great Leah Maivia to try to get Big Daddy, the Guardian of Chaos, over to Polynesian Pacific Wrestling or Polynesian Championship Wrestling over in the islands. I tried to get out there for a good 6 months, and the conversations that I had with the Rock's grandmother, Leah Maivia, great-grandmother, grandmother, Leah Maivia, I still have her number. What a lady. Pure class, listening to me, viewing my tapes, even agreeing to say to me, hey, Big Daddy, if you can get over here, we'll use you. I mean, so that in itself, and being able to talk to Leah, and again, I've had so many conversations, especially back in the early and middle 90s, whether it was with Dusty Rhodes or with Harley Race or with JJ or Jim Ross or Terry Taylor, so many different folks, I can't even remember them. I'd have to go back and research the notes, and then, of course, Leah Maivia, just to get the bookings. Unbelievable. I'll never forget it, and the connection there. So let's get back on to so I'm sitting there watching it with my wife, and I was like, talk to his grandma. You know, I talked to Leah, and she's like, wow. And then you show her the pictures with Alpha and stuff like that, like all the Paradise 4 guys and the people that have been fortunate and blessed and humbled enough to work with these guys, you know, and to be just an independent and to do this. That's why I bring this to you. And you see, I'm perpetual positivity and smiling because of who I am, what I've done, and how I feel about life in general and being in the moment. So back onto the Young Rock TV. The first episode drew over 5 million people. And then the replay drew almost 2 million people. So for the first episode, where The Rock is running for president, I think in 2032 or 2034, which isn't that far away. And it's kind of believable what's going on in this world. And he'd get my vote. 7 million people, if you put the replay plus the live, over 5 million to watch that show. Unbelievable. Rock turns anything into gold. And it's just nice to see the business be portrayed in semi-reality, although some of the stories were far-fetched. Now, compared to this past week, the second episode of Young Rock did 3.5 million. I'm not sure what the replay did, but you see how it quickly dropped, but that's still solid ratings. And it's great to see the business portrayed that way. And to give people the history, especially the folks in that demographic that I talked about, do your research. Go back on YouTube. Go back on the network. It's all out there. You're missing out on the history and the homage, and like what the Cauliflower Alley Club does, and New England Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame, and all the different organizations around the country do to pay homage and tribute to the ones who came before you. And if you don't, you really ain't shit in this business. And I think I owe $40 for this show and a tip jar for cussing. Also, some news coming out of MLW next week. Huge championship match. Jacob Fatu, the current MLW heavyweight champion from the Contra unit, takes on Jordan Oliver. That's worth the price of admission. You're not going to want to miss next week's MLW Fusion. And this company right now, what Court Bauer's doing, is growing by leaps and bounds. I covered it several episodes back. The incredible strap match between Richard Holiday and the legend Savio Vega. Well, this week on MLW Fusion, not only will Fatu be defending against Jordan Oliver, ever. Hammerstone will be on Fusion. Richard Holiday, the Caribbean heavyweight champion, will be there. Filthy Tom Lawler will be on the card. And of course, perhaps my favorite tag team, if not one of my favorites right now, Marshall and Ross Von Erich will be on MLW Fusion this week. You're not going to want to miss it. Listen, there's a lot of competition on Wednesday nights. You have AEW Dynamite. You have NXT. Then the previous night, you have Impact and what they're doing in the whole immersion version with AEW. And don't let MLW get lost in the shuffle on Wednesday nights. It's an excellent product. It's one of the best products in the world. You're not going to want to miss what's happening. The Samoan smashing machine, Jacob Fatu. Enough said about that. What I want to talk about quickly, new signees that came across my timeline this morning. PWI Insider broke it, Mike Johnson and those guys, so I'll give them credit for this. But the new folks out there and the new students, some of them you know, some of them you don't know, you'll recognize the names. I'll run them down here quickly. An interesting cast for this next class down at the Performance Center. And again, some of them veterans, some of them rookies, some of them you'll know, some of them you won't know. Down in the Performance Center, just signed, Rick Steiner's son, Bronson Rick Steiner, is down in the WWE Performance Center. It's nice to see the second, third generation grapplers to come into the Performance Center. So Rick Steiner's son, Bronson, is down there. And of course, we're all well aware that John Morrison's wife, the great Vida Loca, Taya Valkyrie, is now in NXT and training. And it ought to be very interesting to see what Taya is going to do. I consider her one of the best female grapplers in the world. Shane Ricker. And if you're not, well, let me get that correct. Sean Ricker, because no one knows him by his real name except, I don't know, Meltzer, maybe, a.k.a. Eli Drake, a.k.a. L.A. Knight. Yes, Sean Ricker is down at the NXT Performance Center, and we know that already. Also, Angela Arnold, who recently graduated and is coming out of Booker T's training facility down there in Texas, is now in the Performance Center. Parker Boudreaux, who I follow on social media, and actually, he follows me. The kid that looks just like the next big thing, the beast incarnate, Brock Lesnar. If you haven't seen Parker Boudreaux, go out and follow him on all social media platforms, because he's the next big thing, and he is down at the Performance Center. Also, out of Evolve, a veteran from the indie scene and from Evolve, a great grappler, Anthony Henry. I think he'll do big things in NXT. Another guy who I had a chance to work with and personally is one of the nicest guys I ever met, and what an unbelievable talent out of the great Northeast hotbed area, and that would be one Christian Casanova. Good luck, Casanova. You definitely got this down, brother. You should have been there years ago. So good luck to Christian Casanova. Also, Blake Christian, another grappler, a young grappler who just recently debuted, is down at the Performance Center. And here we go. Matrick Belton. This is personally out to the Patriot Del Wilkes, because Matrick Belton is an All-American out of the University of South Carolina, and he was in camp with the Philadelphia Eagles. He is down at the Performance Center, and also from the Indies, and she wrestled in the area, the tri-state New England Northeast area, for the legendary indie group, probably one of the best in the country. You talk about that major league, AAA, AA, single A, definitely AAA to the next step, Northeast Wrestling, and that would be one Carissa Rivera is down at the Performance Center. Also, Joe Areola, I don't know a lot about him. No, I don't mean Areola, that's his last name. A multi-time state champion, national champion who competed at the University of Buffalo. He is also down, and along with several other collegiate grapplers, a couple guys that I might be missing, and female grapplers I might be missing, all down in the new Performance Center class. It ought to be one heck of a class. Those are the news and notes, fans, that we have going on here. Next up, we have plenty of news and notes. I want to go into, I guess we will give the big shout out, since we had the first couple. See, this is what Chaos does. He gets the notes. He makes sure he gets them down the right way. I want to give, as we're 30 minutes in here, and we're going to make this under an hour. Before the end of the show, I will cover this week's Paradise Alley Pro Wrestling event, Alley Fights, down at the training facility, at the Performance Center, if you will. in the shadows of Titan Towers. I want to give a big shout out and happy birthday to 72-year-old Ric Flair. Now, I never worked with Ric Flair. I never ran across him in the independent scene, but I did have the chance to meet him, and I'll admit it. I'm man enough to admit it. I spent 25 years behind the walls. It always seems to happen to me. I did happen to see him in a compromising position, meaning with no clothes, in the dressing room at the Boston Garden. I was introduced to him, unfortunately, not a true story, but as Kevin Sullivan's tag team partner, which I never was. But Flair was nice enough to, there in his full regalia birthday suit, to give me a few minutes of conversation backstage at the Boston Garden. I'll never forget it. Yeah, he has the long guinea, and then later on that night at Kowloon's, but what a night, Ric Flair. Happy birthday to you, Nature Boy. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, Nature Boy. 72, let's hope you have a few more. Woo! We're lucky to have the Nature Boy here with us. I'm going to quickly, in no particular order, run down what I think were some of his greatest matches. No order. I'm going to give a brief description of what I can know and remember and did research on. And of course, there's many, many that I'm missing. I know that. So if you have any ideas on your own or any memories or any thoughts, I gave you my personal memory of Ric Flair. And was it to the left or the right? Well, I want to keep it rated PG here. Here we go. Happy birthday, Nature Boy, all kidding aside, and stay healthy, my friend, please. Will you please? Here are some of the greatest matches. Now listen, we all know, let's see, Dusty Rhodes, Harley Race, Macho Man Randy Savage, Mr. Perfect Curt Hennig, Sting, Ricky Steamboat, Terry Funk, Big Van Vader, Randy Orton. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. But I'm going to run down some, not in any particular order. School is in session here at Chaos Corner. Show number 40, live to tape. Thanks for being here. 1992 Royal Rumble, where Ric Flair entered as number 3. I covered this on the Royal Rumble show a few episodes back. He went a full hour, and that's where he won his first WWF title for the first time. If you remember the stipulation back in 92, the Royal Rumble, whoever won the title. Ric Flair came in at number 3, went a full hour showing how great he was to win his first WWE title. Now, if you remember, the final 4 in that Royal Rumble was Hulk Hogan, Sid Justice, the Macho Man, and Ric Flair. Now, Flair and Sid eliminated the Macho Man, kind of teamed up, which in turn Hogan helped out to eliminate Sid, which means that Flair dumped them both and he won the Rumble. That's how that one ended in 92, and that's where we thought we'd get that first moment of Flair versus Hogan, the two legends from the WWF and NWA, to go face-to-face in a WWF ring, but really didn't work out the way we wanted to. But again, one of Flair's probably biggest moments. 1986, the Great American Bash versus Dusty Rhodes for the NWA title. Now, fans, if you haven't gone back out and watched some of Flair's stuff from the Four Horsemen and the NWA, I implore you, 1986, the year the Mets won the World Series, which was a great year for me personally. Great American Bash, Dusty Rhodes for the NWA title. Go out and watch that one. And the best thing about Ric Flair and some of his greatest matches, not were only when he won those matches, but also when he gave the rub and made somebody else look good, and they continued to put asses in the seats, sell out arenas, and make money. That's what it was all about. You're not going to want to miss that one. Go out, 86 Great American Bash against Dusty Rhodes. 1993, the Monday Night Raw episode against Mr. Perfect. Now, Bobby Heenan was Flair's manager at the time, if you remember correctly. And Hennig actually beat Ric Flair with the Perfect Plex. How about that? 1993, Monday Night Raw. Ric Flair loses to Curt Hennig, the Perfect Plex. But again, just because he lost, he made Curt Hennig into a more of a star than he already was, and he even skyrocketed Hennig even further. That's what was so great about that match. Ric Flair versus Macho Man Savage, WrestleMania 8. Savage wins the title. Now, listen, I believe it was WrestleMania 8 again. The notes aren't right here in front of me. Somebody hit me off in the comment section if I am correct about that. I believe it was WrestleMania 8. WrestleMania 8, again, what made that so important, memories coming back, remember, fans, I'm pushing the certain demo, over 50 demo, God, cut me some slack here. What made that great, just like the Hennig match, was Flair putting Savage over and Savage even solidifying himself that much more as a Hall of Famer. So again, these aren't necessarily matches that Flair went over. Another great match. 1989 versus Ricky Steamboat. This was like the third bout, the trilogy back then of Flair versus Steamboat. They went 45 minutes in this one. 45 fucking minutes. They used to go 45 minutes to an hour all the time back then. When do you ever see that happen now? You just don't. And that's what I'm talking about. If you remember correctly, this was the night they had the three judges. Terry Funk, the legendary Lou Thez, and the legendary Pat O'Connor. Three unbelievable legends that was that night. I believe that was, come on, come to me, Chaos. Wrestle War. Wrestle War. That was the name of that show. It wasn't Starrcade, Great American Bash, any one of those. It was Wrestle War, where they had the three judges. And Flair actually pinned Steamboat with the small package. No, not the small package. The Move, the small package. Again, Ric Flair, the Longini. I don't think he had the small package. But this is, well, I won't put it up for kids, this show. 45 minutes, 89 Wrestle War with the three judges. Unbelievable. Again, no particular order here, fans. I'm going to go on to 1983, Starrcade 83 in particular. Harley Race, Ric Flair, and the Steel Cage. The referee was Gene Kiniski, if you remember, and Kiniski was working against Flair the whole entire match. It was like he was wrestling two people in the Steel Cage. Now, you know the feud between Race and Flair. Flair actually beat Race in the Steel Cage with a top rope body press for the win. And again, remember the whole Gene Kiniski angle that was being worked back then. Unbelievable. Starrcade 83, Race, Flair, and a Steel Cage. Let's go to, again, anyone? And there's no one here this time. Bueller? I don't know. Bueller? There's nobody here to answer me this time. I believe WrestleMania 26. Ric Flair is 59 years old. Let's do the math. He's 72 today. He was 59 then. I believe it was WrestleMania 26. This was the night after he was inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame. Remember that. What year was that? Anyway, the bottom line is he was inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame the night before. He's 59 years old. He's 72 today. Flair, Michaels, WrestleMania 26, career on the line, if you remember correctly. And for all intents purposes, this was Ric Flair's last bout. And he lost. Shawn Michaels wins. Now, Flair went on to wrestle 2 or 3 more times after that, but for all intents purposes, this was Flair's last bout. And again, I keep telling you the greatness about Ric Flair. It wasn't just when he won and what he did, it's what he did for the others and what he did in the ring and for putting people over and solidifying Michaels as the legend that he went out to be as the Heartbreak Kid. That's what you got right there. WrestleMania 26, I believe it was. And again, Flair was inducted to the Hall of Fame the night before. 59 years old. I mean, you know, this guy's unbelievable. And then to see what he's doing currently and Monday Night Raw and the whole angle with his daughter, who's perhaps one of the best in the world today, and the whole Lacey Evans gimmick and Rick's still doing it and being involved. I mean, you got to give Ric Flair credit. Again, truly one of the greatest and one of the most influential and still giving back. Unbelievable. WrestleMania 26, I believe it was. Check it out. Somebody get back to me, please. 1993, Flair versus Vader at Starrcade. That's right, Starrcade 93. Vader was being managed by Harley Race with a slap in the face to Ric Flair. It was a great match. It showed the punishment that Flair has taken throughout his whole career. Flair actually pinned Vader in a roll-up, of all things. So fans, Starrcade 1993, Flair against Big Van Vader. You won't find a more violent vicious, snug, physical match than that one right there. Flair versus Sting, Clash of Champions 1, which is on TBS. Now, fans, you're not going to want to miss that one. And look at Sting now at 60 years old, 61 years old, still involved. What he did on AEW Dynamite with Darby Allin and then with Brian Cage. And listen, it's unbelievable what Sting's doing and what these current guys are doing. And Flair at 72, not getting in any ring, although I'm sure he would like to. Clash of the Champions 1. Flair was the champion. This is where a green, young Sting, fresh off the Blade Runners, the Dingo Warrior Sting, whatever it is you want to call it, he was starting to become a major star. Again, 45-minute draw. Clash of the Champions 1. No pay-per-view. Regular TV. And you know how it ends? Sting had Flair in the Scorpion Deathlock, which went on to become his legendary finisher. And what Flair, again, as I'm proving it to you guys here, he gave Sting the rub. Clash of Champions 1. Unbelievable. 45-minute draw. When do you see that happen now? I don't have to say much about Flair and Terry Funk and the feud that they've had, whether it be Dusty Rhodes, Harley Race, Terry Funk. Those are the greatest feuds that Ric Flair ever had. Throw in Ricky Steamboat, and yeah, the other ones were later on, but those were the originals and the ones that really captured me in the 70s and especially in the 80s. Flair versus Funk, a Clash of Champions in the I Quit match. This is something, you talk about brutal, you talk about blood, you talk about carnage. It was an unbelievable bout by two legends, Ric Flair, Terry Funk. It doesn't get any better than that. And again, fans, you know that I had a chance to work with Terry Funk back in the late 90s, I believe it was. If I went to my timeline, I don't think it was early. It was before 9/11. Chicago, Hammond, Indiana for World Wrestling Zone, AWA Superstars. Unbelievable, Terry Funk. I took one right between the eyes, but let's get off that. No one wants to hear that. Although that's the connection of what you get here at Chaos Corner, and that's why you watch, because of what happens here. You don't get this in other shows. You don't get the grind. You don't get someone being here every day, and then you don't get the personal connection stories of someone who was an insider, but basically was an outsider. The most well-known unknown, and you know that. So let's get back onto Flair versus Funk, Clash of Champions, the I Quit match. Flair won by figure 4. Go out. Fans, all this stuff that I'm giving you here is books and knowledge and videos that you need to go back and research. It's all out there for consumption. You're missing the boat if you don't do it. It really is unbelievable. Those are some of the bouts. Listen, I have another probably 3 or 4 pages of Flair memories and bouts, but those are the ones that really stuck out that I wanted to get down here for show number 40 so I can get it out to YouTube on the channel. Really unbelievable bouts. Fans, go out and check those out. And if you want to get back to me and email me with any of your thoughts, again, leave the comment. I tell you that all the time. What I want to get on to next is something here that's local. We're 47 minutes in. Thank you for being here. Show number 40, Chaos Corner. What we have coming up this weekend, okay? We are less than 48 hours away, or about 48 hours away from Paradise Alley Pro Wrestling Alley Fights down at the PAPW Performance Center. Now, we know who the Paradise Alley 4 are. That's Pretty Paul Roma, Mario Mancini, Big Steve Tracy, and Paul Perez. 4 guys that worked under the guidance of Vincent Kennedy McMahon in New York. We are in the shadows of Titan Towers in the historic New Haven County area, the old territory of the WWF. Now, I don't have to tell you about Roma's career, and you can listen to him every Wednesday night with Avi Klein at 7 p.m. on Facebook Live and Twitch for his podcast, Maintaining the Truth on Wrestling with Anything But. And if you don't listen to that and watch that, I don't know what the heck to tell you. You are missing the boat out on pure knowledge from a former 4 Horsemen, Power and Glory. Pretty wonderful. And then he has my old buddy on there, Mario Mancini, for Mario's Corner. And I was actually the first guest, Chaos Corner on Mario's Corner, on WWAB, on Maintaining the Truth with Avi Klein and Paul Roma. Oh, you see what I did there? Chaos Corner? That's okay. It's neither here nor there. I got nothing but love, baby. The Paradise 4 this weekend, Saturday, 7 p.m. bell time. You're not going to want to miss Alley Fights. Here's the news and notes from the last show. Under the radar, under pressure, Alley Fights, whatever it was, it's out there on YouTube. Go to ParadiseAlleyProWrestling.com, and I'm going to throw this out here. Collusion, which is the current United States champion Zafar Al-Rahihi, and Maxim Morozov, who is the current Intercontinental Paradise Alley Pro Wrestling champion. They team up as their old group, still going strong, Collusion. No, there was no collusion in the Trump administration, but there's collusion at Paradise Alley Pro Wrestling, and that's Maxim Morozov and Zafar Al-Rahihi as they take on the two former champions, the former United States champion Buzz Bloodsaw and the former Intercontinental champion, the New England Beast, Bull Dread. Now that's going to be one heck of a matchup. That's worth the price of admission alone. Now remember the history here. Bloodsaw just recently at the last Alley Fights defeated Zafar Al-Rahihi, but by disqualification. Now, if you remember correctly, Zafar had defeated Bloodsaw for the United States Heavyweight Championship. Now, you know how Zafar won the title. You got to be in the loop. You have to go to PAPW on all social media platforms and check out the videos. Of course, the pyramids of power, and here's where the collusion comes in, whether it's with Morozov, Abdul Haq, Alading, and Aladdin, the pyramids of power, they distracted the referee. Rahihi got the iron chain, the fist that he probably borrowed from Mother Russia. Putin, Morozov, who knows? Clock Bloodsaw, and that's how he won the title to begin with. So the war and what's going forward and what's going to happen this weekend, Collusion versus Bull Dread and Buzz Bloodsaw, the current champions of the United States and Intercontinental against the former champions. This will be a bloodbath. That's my prediction. Also, Dustin Flash Waller, fresh off his win over Chris the Red Lion Battle for the Alley Fights title, is unbelievable. Dustin Flash Waller will be in attendance, the current Alley Fights champion. With that being said, Chris Battle sounds off against Flash Waller. If you remember at the last Alley Fights, after Waller defeated the Red Lion, who was sort of a mentor to Waller, you know what happened. Battle turned him around and gave him the maul, the spear, if you will, and turned on his former protege, we'll say. Although we know that Waller is Roma trained and Mancini brained, Battle is a mentor to him. So Battle sounds off this Saturday at Alley Fights. Also, the former Paradise Alley Pro Wrestling Heavyweight Champion Matias De Napoli, the Uruguayan sensation, the Uruguayan superstar, returns to take on Fox Vineyard. Now, if you haven't seen Fox Vineyard, he looks like a cross between the Missing Link and the Missing Link from the old world-class championship wrestling days. Go out and do your research. So the former champion Matias De Napoli takes on Fox Vineyard, a.k.a. the Missing Link, one dangerous veteran in Fox Vineyard. That right there is a main event that could go out anywhere. Also, let's not forget who may be hanging around and lurking in the shadows, and that would be one, Kylon King, the current Anytime, Any Gold Championship match winner. Now, King can cash in on Anytime, Any Gold, anywhere. It could be at Alley Fights for all we know. So keep an eye out for the sensation. Again, Roma trained, Mancini brained, Kylon King, the winner of the Anytime, Any Gold Gauntlet match, and he can cash that in at any time, and it could be this weekend. Also, Waves and Curls. That's Jalen Brandon and Trayvon Jordan, probably the most electric tag team in the independent scene right now. They return to Alley Fights. Waves and Curls is coming back. The big man Trayvon Jordan, Jaden Braylon, unbelievable. Waves and Curls are an unbelievable tag team, and it wouldn't be surprising to me if, along with Sean and Jay Haven and Hose A and Hose B, Team Espana, perhaps the Pyramids of Power are in contention for the three-time tag team champions, the reigning defending champions of Paradise Alley Pro Wrestling, and that would be Nick Payne and Hakim Ali. Now, I don't know what the leader of the Tri-State Kings, Showtime Marcel Williams, has in store for all the fans this Saturday night at Alley Fights, but remember, Showtime is the leader of the Tri-State Kings. Where are Nick Payne and Hakim Ali? Where are the reigning defending tag team champions? There's a lot going on in the tag team division. That's why Waves and Curls is returning. And if you saw on the last Alley Fights, Sean and Jay Haven, the Haven, they went over. They defeated the Pyramids of Power, who has been a thorn in the side of Paradise Alley for years. That's right. The Haven defeated the Pyramids of Power and their underhanded tactics at the last Alley Fights. So there's a lot going on this Saturday at Alley Fights. Also, Troy Stevens will be in action. Lucas Chase will be in action. Now, if you remember, Troy Stevens at the last Alley Fights went over on Zach Gibbs. I don't know if he's Zachariah Gibbs, if he's back from Rumspringa, but I consider that to be an upset. Now, listen, I know Gibbs is young, is green, Zachariah Gibbs, Zach Gibbs, Rumspringer, soiled his oats, filled his oats, the Bunny Ranch. I don't know what he did. But he's also Roma-trained, Mancini-brained, and for a young grappler, he's been at this for years in this business. For Troy Stevens to go over on Gibbs, I consider that an upset. So Troy Stevens will be at Alley Fights this weekend, and if you didn't see it, I want to address the current Paradise Alley Professional Wrestling Heavyweight Champion, and that would be the Beast, the 350-pounder, because he's in training and he's lost about 50 pounds, perhaps the best shape of his life, and that would be Vlad. Vlad was at the last Alley Fights, and what he did was reprehensible. You're a disgusting human being, Vlad. You understand that, right? Only one Vlad. I'm going to call you out on it because you went in there and you showed up at Alley Fights, and I don't know who Compost is. I don't know where this guy came from. He looked the part. He looked good. He was a big guy, but Vlad destroyed Compost. Now, I don't know where Compost is out of. He had the ring, he had the gear, he had the attire, but he was no match for the 400-pound madman, the current heavyweight champion. Vlad destroyed him. It was unbelievable. And who came in to save Compost? The former best friend, Matias DiNapoli. That's right, who I previously mentioned, the Uruguayan sensation. He came in and tried to call Vlad off, and then a young boy, like 12 years old, I believe it might have been a relative of Compost or maybe even Matias, he got in the ring, wearing his mask, the mandate, and PAPW's following all the guidelines, and there's news on that too, because the next show in March is fully wide open. We're going to be open here, and it's fully wide open, full capacity for the next event in March for PAPW. That's breaking news. We'll get on to that another time. Let's talk about what's happening at Alley Fights. Vlad gets in there, Matias with this young boy who was a family member. Vlad picked him up and was going to power slam him. He picked him up and he double hooked him and he got him up into a power slam and he tossed him across the ring onto Matias. I don't get what he did. It's reprehensible. It's disgusting. And what you did, Vlad, you will pay for it, I'm sure, by your former best friend, Matias DiNapoli. I cannot believe what happened at the end of that show, that he actually picked up a child, and it looked like he was going to power slam him, and he threw him across the ring, and Matias was lucky enough to catch him and fall backwards. So that's how it ended at Alley Fights for Paradise Alley Pro Wrestling. That's the news that I have that I wanted to bring to you. We haven't covered it here locally in a while because of the COVID and the pandemic, but PAPW is back and they're strong and they're throwing shows every month, pay-per-view and in person. And the guidelines have been released and opened up as of early March next week. So for the next event at Paradise Alley Pro Wrestling at the end of March, it will be full capacity, 100% with the guidelines in accordance with the CDC and mandates here in the Constitution State, if you will. So that's what I wanted to talk to you about. It's unbelievable what's going to happen this week. This weekend at Paradise Alley Pro Wrestling. If you want your local independent wrestling related to future stars, past legends like the Paradise 4, go out and support local independent wrestling, which is the backbone of this business. You're not going to want to miss it. So we covered all things news, all things notes, show number 40, live to tape. I can't thank you fans enough for being here 20 feet below the surface of the earth. I'm kind of lonely. I'm by myself, but I appreciate it. Again, follow me on all social media platforms. I'll be back to cover a complete idiot's guides of the world of professional wrestling. You're not going to want to miss that. I am the guardian of chaos, Big Daddy. I tell it like it is. I'll say that to say this. In under an hour, show number 40, live to tape, same day coverage. It's me, it's me, it's the GOC. Don't you dare miss it.